Yes, you got that right from the title. I am going to be sharing my unfiltered thoughts about Booktube because today I'm going to be doing the Booktube Real Talk tag. No, I was not tagged by anybody, but I really did feel drawn to do this tag, and so I'm gonna do it. This tag was created by Alyssa over at Books with Alyssa J. I just feel like there are so many things that people never really talk about starting BookTube and going into BookTube, and this tag just covers quite a number of it. And honestly, I'm a bit miffed that when this tag was created, nobody asked me for it. But I also realized that this tag was created around the time when I was suffering from a depressive episode. So I might not have been in the right frame of mind to answer the questions. But I've got my phone, I've got the questions. Let's get into it. So the very first question says, what is something nobody told you about BookTube before you started your channel? Now, this is interesting because I started my booktube channel in I think 2018. Yeah, I think it was like 2018, like October 2018. And when I started my channel, it was pretty clear. And I think this is something that anybody that starts a booktube channel always assumes. Like everybody's like, it's a great opportunity. I get to talk to people about books, and we get to talk about books, the books we enjoy, with the expectation that we're going to be able to get other people who like similar books to connect with us. We're going to be able to get other people invested in these books that we enjoy, because the perception is that BookTube is the best place for book lovers. And I think that one thing nobody ever told me before joining BookTube, because it's not like I had any friends in BookTube before I joined BookTube, but one thing, and there are a lot of things, but one thing I think nobody ever mentions when you join BookTube is the fact that BookTube is less about reading books and more about talking about books, right? I remember the very first time I was watching a video. I can't remember what the video is. And the person was saying something like, "Oh, I never really did read this book, but I have thoughts." And I was just over here watching and being like, "You must have lost your goddamn mind. What do you mean you have thoughts? You have not read the book. The number of thoughts you should have right now is zero. What the actual fuck?" Like, that was my brain. Like, that was my thought. And then I realized that that was not the first time, nor was it going to be the last time. So yes, nobody ever tells you that BookTube is more about talking about books than reading books, which means that the algorithm rewards non-book conversation related type videos. That's why alls do great, right? Because even if you're talking about the book, it's more of a, these are my initial thoughts, usually based off of the synopsis, and then you move on. But like, book reviews don't get as much views unless it is that you have created an audience, or you have a very snarky, I hate this book voice, which is a subset of like something I'd mentioned about my thoughts when I was entering BookTube, when I was just a little baby and was ignorant and stuff. BookTube does not like you talking about the books you love. BookTube loves you talking about the books you hate. The snarkier you are, the more vehemence you have towards a book, the better the views. It's like the algorithm rewards you for hating on it.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
And I'm not saying like I'm somebody that's not like filmed reviews of books I hated. I'm certain if you go through my videos, you can see, like, you will see a ton of books that I absolutely despised. But I never picked up the books with the perception and the expectation that I was going to hate them. Usually I picked up the book with the hope that I was going to enjoy them, because books are bloody fucking expensive, not just with regards how much you spend on them, but also the time it takes you to read them. And so if I buy a book with money that I had to work my ass off with money that I had to sacrifice something else so that I could afford to get the book. If I buy the book and then I spend my time also, which is in limited supply because adulting is fucking hard, especially when it is that you have like very busy days. It's hard for you to get some reading done. So when it is that you take the time to actually do read, only to find out that you hate the book, that shit burns. Which also means that when I then review a book I hate, I am very scathing because not only did it cost me my time, it also cost me a shit ton of money. So, yes, because do you know how hard it is to ship books to Nigeria? Do you know how hard it is? Okay. Second question, what is your opinion on typical booktube videos, wrap-ups, TBRs, ors, etc.? I think I already started, like part of what I'd said previously was already tied to it. They are booktube staples for a reason, and you most likely would get the views for it. Um, what exactly am I trying to say? Because I'm trying to find a way in which I'm just not, because I want to also be honest. I think that the typical standard booktube videos are done with the expectation that you are fast and quick and keep it moving. And I say this because you see somebody now, for example, who is like, I have a 60 book haul, right? They're like, I have a 60 book haul. And I'm over here and I'm like, yo, that's going to be a long ass video. Let me, get dinner, get something to drink, settle in. It's going to be a ride. And then I look at the duration and it's like less than 10 minutes. And all I'm thinking is, how the fuck do you fit in 60 books in less than 10 minutes? Or somebody tells you, or somebody says, I read 20 books in April. And then the entire video is like 8 minutes. And I'm like, how is your wrap up 8 minutes? And then I realized that the very stereotypical standard booktube videos of like hauls and wrap ups and like TBR videos are usually very short with practically zero information that would actually serve you. Like the hauls are usually they hold up a book, somebody speaks like the person speaks on it for like 5 seconds, dropped it, moved on. Another book, another 6 seconds, dropped it, moved on. And I'm like, that's not even enough time for me to devote to seeing if I'm going to be interested in getting this book if I see it in a bookstore. So how have you put together your thoughts, the state of mind that you were in when you were picking out this book in such a short amount of time? Like, make it make sense. That's what my brain thinks. My brain is like, make it make sense. And so it's the same thing with a TBR. Like, these are the books I'm going to read. Pum, 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 and you're done. Okay. These are my wrap up. These are my hauls. I think that the stereotypical booktube videos were initially created as a great way for people to talk about books. But remember what I said, that booktube is mostly about talking about books and not reading books. Because then it then becomes a lot of the stereotypical booktube related content do not give enough information with regards people making a logical, well thought out, well informed choice with regards their interest or potential interest in said book. Because a lot of typical booktube related videos have sacrificed speed for efficiency. I've sacrificed speed for thoroughness. And I think that that is just very sad. Because if it is that I want to get, like, you're telling me a wrap up about the books you read, I don't just want you to give me a synopsis and then tell me that this was 4 stars, one or two things happened and that's it. Like, what were your thoughts? How did this book make you feel? Can you go more in depth in your wrap up? I'm guilty. My wrap ups are always long as fuck because I do not know how to shut the fuck up. But that is because I like reading and talking about the books I read. Right. And even though I have not been reading as much because of the fact that I am recovering from a depressive episode and a reading slump that I fell in 2020. I know some of you are like, yo, Noria, is 4 years. Mental health, people. My mental health is in shambles. But I am trying my best. And I've not been reading as much. But when I do, and when I'm doing a wrap up, I like sharing my thoughts. I like watching extensively long videos, wrap up videos. So yeah, that's my thought about the stereotypical booktube related videos. The next question says, sorry. The next question says, what is an assumption you had about booktube before you joined? Was it proven to be correct or not? The assumption I had about booktube, I had a ton of assumptions about booktube. I already mentioned the fact that I was like, oh, everybody's reading. And then I realized that not everybody was necessarily reading. We were talking about books, but we're not necessarily reading. But that's also because it is so hard. Like, nobody tells you how hard it is to like have a consistent booktube video channel until you're in it, and then you realize that the time you should be spending reading, you're spending talking about books, and like it then becomes hard for you to read. But sorry, that's not the question. An assumption I had about booktube before I joined was that I assumed that I was going to make a lot of friends on this platform, friends with similar interests, namely books. I assumed that I was going to find like found family and like a great community. And I was both wrong and right. Right in the sense that I did find friends. I did find friends that I am still close to, that I still chat with. I did find very good friends, but my assumption about how closely knit the community is was kind of not met. When I joined Booktube, I found out that Booktube was very big on clicks, which never made sense to me. When I was in school, secondary school, remember I'm Nigerian, there were clicks, but I was never really a click person. I just had my friends and we just navigated the entire school system. The same thing when we got to university, et cetera, et cetera. So I've also always been good with good close friendships and not necessarily clicks. So that still worked for me. But it was interesting to find out that it was not as tight knit a community as I had assumed before joining. Not as tight knit. It would have been interesting to know that, to be like sure of that before I joined, but alas. What is something you've done that has actually helped you grow your audience? Oof. I don't know about growing my audience, to be honest. And this is a great time for me to say that if you're enjoying my channel or my content or the honesty, or my thoughts so far, and you're not yet subscribed, please consider subscribing to my channel. It means the world to me. But with regards growing my channel, I don't know about growing it per se. Um, because I have been stuck at 9,000 subscribers since 2020. Yes, I have been at 9,000 subscribers for the last 4 years. In fact, it's been regressing. I've had a lot of people unfollow me for reasons I don't know. I can be very opinionated. So maybe some people just do not like my opinions. I don't know. But yes, it has been regressing. It has been regressing. But I would say that what did help me grow my channel, because when I started, like if I look at between 2018 and 2020, when my channel was growing, I gained 9,000 subscribers in that period of time, right? It was just after that things just slowed down. But I also know that a large jump, like I got like almost 5 to 6K subscribers in 2020 because of white guilt, because that was the year George Floyd was murdered, and there was the protest at Ferguson. That was also the year of NSARS, although NSARS happened in October and did not get as much conversations on BookTube as the protests, Ferguson, and everything else got, because BookTube is also very BookTube is, very focused on like American issues, a bit of Britain and a bit of Canada, but mostly American issues. And so when you exist outside of that, you're not getting as much traction. And the things that happened with NSAS was actually what triggered my depression, and my burnout, because there was a traumatizing experience and a massacre that I was almost caught in with my friends, and that just sent me on a tailspin. And by the time I came back, my channel wasn't growing. But I would say that part of it was white guilt, but also part of it is, I think personally, because I don't want to assume that everybody that followed me did so because they felt guilty. Because I did have people following me prior to that, and my channel was growing at a regular, albeit slow rate, but it was growing. I think being authentic definitely helped with growing my channel. Being consistent helped with growing my channel, and that's something I'm trying to get back into, because like I had like specific dates and times that I uploaded. And so people knew that when they came at this day, at this time, they were going to get new content. So at least that way it was driving like consistent views. But like for new people, I think like me being authentic, I think I have a little smidgen of a sense of humor, right? And sometimes I don't take myself too seriously, but also I really fucking dig books. I really, really dig books. And I think that for other people that love books, that love I have for reading and for books comes through. And that was something that drew them in. So I would say being authentic, being funny, being consistent, and also fucking loving books. Because, like, why are you on BookTube if you fucking hate books and if you hate reading? Like, why? Like, it makes no sense. But yes, so what is a common mistake you see new booktubers making, or one that you made? One that I made, which contributed to my burnout, is definitely a common mistake, I would say. And this contributed to my burnout, is not pacing yourself. When I started my booktube channel, I was releasing 3 to 4 videos per week. I wish that somebody had cautioned me and pointed out that I did not need to be doing so much, because by the time I hit like my very first burnout, and that was before the depressive episode in 2020, by the time I hit my very first burnout in 2019, it was like I was flat back, I was bamboozled, I was flummoxed, I was shooketh, I was in pain. So yes, I think that a common mistake people do not realize is that, one, making booktube, like consistent booktube videos, is hard. So pick a time frame that works for you. Also, a great idea, film some videos in advance so that you can, if you fall ill, you can take that time to rest without feeling guilt. Because when I started my channel, I always felt so guilty anytime my body was like, we've had enough and we need to rest, and I felt ill. Because I was like, I don't have any content. What are people going to do? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, prioritize yourself. Prioritize your self care. And this has nothing to just do with booktube. Even if it is that you're outside of booktube, even if it is that you're doing like a regular 9 to 5, prioritize your health and prioritize your body. And always remember that when your body finally does decide that it had enough and it needs to rest, it's trying to do you a favor. The work would be there when you're back. There's no need for you to punish yourself or punish your body for its normal response to trauma and pain and sickness and fatigue and stress. Like, you're tired, that's fine. Take a break, take a couple of weeks. That's if you're on booktube. If you have a 9 to 5, you can take a couple of days, take some time off, recover. Don't feel guilty about it. Fuck capitalism. And it's very easy for doing something on booktube that is meant to be something like booktube that is meant to bring you joy, that is meant to be a hobby, not a hobby, because some of us are trying to turn it into like something legit, but something that should not necessarily be so much of a burden on you. It's very easy for you to treat yourself like a cog in a machine that capitalism wants you to, and that is so unfair, and that is so unnecessary, and that is something you should not let happen. So That is my advice. That's a mistake and something an advice that can help. What are your thoughts on working with publishers and sponsorships? To be fair, I have not really had that much sponsorships. Usually, it's they don't really go for small booktubers like that. And if you're a small booktuber, then your engagement has to be very, very high. And like I said, things have just been kind of shaky for me for the last 4 years. But when I was active prior to the episode of 2020, I would say that publishers, especially within booktube, tended to reach out mostly to white booktubers, and they also tended to reach out to booktubers within in America, and then in a smaller extent in Canada and then the UK. Right. Publishers rarely reached out to booktubers that are living outside of these countries. And when they do, they are very insulting because not I find it very insulting personally, because they usually every other person gets physical copies and they do not even bother to send attempt to send you a physical copy, which makes no sense because they are not paying you for this review. You're going to read this book on your own time. You're going to talk about this book. You're going to make content, right? You're a content creator, you're a book influencer, and they're going to take all that time from you. They're not going to pay you for it. And the little that they could do, which is basically say, okay, here is a physical copy of the book. They're not even going to bother to do that. So it was always very disrespectful and very insulting. Same thing with sponsorships, though. We don't really get that much sponsorships. And when we do, it's always very interesting pricing. Like, and when I say interesting pricing, I mean like less than someone offering you less than $50 type thing. And you're like, bruh, for work that would take me like 2 weeks outside of my regular 9 to 5, for real. Some shit sucks. Next question. Do you think booktube is dying? Honestly, yes and no. Um, I think that the stereotypical way in which we do booktube is dying, and I'm happy for it because I like people exploring new means of talking about books, so not everybody's necessarily doing hauls or TBRs, or wrap ups and stuff. People are just doing what it is that they would like to do, and that's fine. Some people are still holding on to the old ways, and you find a lot of new booktubers coming in, and like because that's always a nice landing point before you then explore what kind of content you want to make with regards booktube. But yeah, I do think it's dying, like the traditional ways of doing things. The OG old booktubers and the numbers that we're making and the views and like it's become more expansive. Um, but I do think that a lot of people have left, which is why I think it's also yes. A lot of people have left. Booktube is not the most rewarding. Sometimes I ask myself, why am I still making content? So yeah, if you're watching this video to this point, thank you, and please tell me uh, a video or a review that I mentioned or a book I mentioned that made you be like, I want to follow Noria. She's funny. She gets it. I like her. I like her content. It's encouraging. Yeah. So yes or no. That's my answer to that. Um, and finally, the last question is to tag. Sorry. The last question is to tag my friends, right? Um, honestly, because this is an old tag, I'm tagging anybody that is interested that is seeing this video. I wants to do it. But if I want to say up the top of my head, Sarah over Novel Serendipity. God damn, my words, they're looping. And Jerry over Onyx Pages, Brittany over Melanin Eclectic. I am fairly certain Tati and Sherry are not going to do this, but just in case, if they would, Tati, well, musical Tati, and Sherry over at Obsidian Books and Tangent, and Vendi, yeah, Lauren over at Novel Lush. It has been a very long ass time since I saw a video from you, Lauren. So that would be nice. But yeah, that is this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget, like I said, please subscribe if you're not yet subscribed. Drop a comment, share this video. It's a great way to support my channel. If you can afford it, you can consider supporting me on Patreon. Nothing is too small, and it does help with expenses and with bills, especially with the state of things. And as I have and as I have started to say, remember, hyperfixating on the things you love, perfectly valid coping mechanism.